Recently, we conducted a survey of Canadians on the topic of identity theft. One of the things that struck us in looking at the findings was that compared to 5 or 10 years ago, when identity theft might not have been known by many people in the population, in our research, fully 97%, virtually everyone, said that that was a term with which they were familiar. So it's become part of the common vernacular of the population. Beyond simply being a term with which Canadians are familiar, it's something that is now occurring to Canadians. 1 in 10 of the people with whom we spoke said that they had actually been personally victimized by identity theft. And beyond that, 1 in 3 told us that, if not themselves, they knew of someone who had been a victim of identity theft. What we found was that 1 in 3 told us that they feel it's very likely that within the next 5 years, they will be a victim of identity theft. And if we ask them more generally, at some point in your life, do you think you'll be touched by it? At that point, 60% of Canadians say yes, they expect it to happen to them at some point. While Canadians seem now to be very familiar with the term identity theft, and unfortunately many of us seem to have been touched by it, we don't necessarily see that Canadians are familiar or as familiar as they could be with all the various forms that identity theft can take. So for example, Canadians are very familiar with the possibility that their credit or their debit card number might be stolen or apprehended, and so they're mindful and concerned about the possibility of that happening to them in retail environments like stores, gas stations, restaurants. But they're much less mindful of the possibilities for identity theft in other contexts. For example, people are very, very disinclined to think that they should be aware or concerned at all about the possibility of identity theft in the workplace, in their educational institutions, in government offices, and even less likely to be concerned or aware of the risks that happen within their own home. So we saw that people were very concerned, and of course they're aware of identity theft, but the natural question next is, well, what have you done about it? And unfortunately, it seems that Canadians, on the whole, haven't really quite figured out what to do to protect themselves against identity theft. When we asked folks, the answer that came out most commonly, and it was only at 1/3 of all of them that we spoke to, was that they shredded or burned their documents, such as invoices or information with documents with personal information that they received at home. Beyond that, we got a number of different answers, but nothing that really struck us in terms of percentages to tell us people feel they have a clear option or solution available to them.